Hello everyone, Gray here,
And Aiden.
and welcome back to another video where today I'm going to be the first person to ever review the alternate model of set number 7474, Urban Avenger versus Raptor. Before we begin, I would like to give a special thanks to YouTube user Schlelkehov for their continuing support in this series, and they are actually the ones who reverse engineered today's model. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the prior two videos in our series, I'll give you a quick rundown on the situation with these alternate models and why you've never heard of them before. So back in 2005, when these were being developed, it seems like LEGO was going to have an alternate model released with each set. However, stayed Dino attack here in the US, but over in Europe it was released as Dino 2010 with all the guns replaced with nets and cages. So as a result, the alternate models that they had planned for the wave could no longer be made for both sides of the theme, which seems to be the reason that LEGO canned the alternate models. However, it seems that this was canceled rather abruptly close to the release of the sets, as the first printing of boxes seem to still have had the pictures of the alternate models on the back of them, as seen here. So, Schlelkehov and I are seemingly the only people right now trying to work to bring these long-lost official alternate models back from the dead. So without further ado, let's get back into it. So, as you can see here, this is a very peculiar little buggy here, with just has kind of four wheels kind of stacked close to each other. You have it kind of angled down, actually. This is an actual slant. So aside from that, it has all the bumpers that the original one had utilized in about the same place representatively, although this vehicle, as you'll see in a minute, is a great deal shorter than the original. The engine exhaust is in the front this time, however, the whole engine unit as a whole seems to still be contained in the back. It has a radio antenna for communications, and probably the most notable feature of this vehicle is this huge, really big gun. This gun is utilizing so many very interesting and weird techniques. First off, it's just like a hodgepodge of kind of the bricks and launcher pieces. It seems to have several different protrusions to fire from, one being back here, one being up here, and one being there. And then this could be argued as one, although that's probably more just like a laser sight. And this could potentially just be a laser sight and this actually be where it beams out of, or vice versa. It's really unclear how the gun works, and it definitely leaves it up to the imagination, which is cool. You know, LEGO inspiring imagination in children. However, I'm not too fond of the gun design here, as it's pretty blocky and just can't really be moved aside from up and down. It has no left to right swivel potential unless you move this little piece here, kind of swivel it around yourself, but even then that's not really a valid way to move such things. So trying to twist that back into position. Also, the gun is constantly kind of at weird, or just the constructions here are at weird angles, and this stick that is supposed to prop up the gun is not even secured, but is instead supposed to be held by friction up against the engine. Now, I seem to have completely botched this gun configuration, as it's very easy to do, so I'll fix it right quick. All right, so I think I've got it. But yeah, aside from that, there really isn't much to say about this strange little buggy cart, whatever it is. Yeah, it seems like the gun may be powerful, although really without much aiming potential. It just kind of seems lackluster and very limited. So, comparing this vehicle with its official counterpart, you see that the alternate of the Urban Avenger is notably shorter than the original. However, there are several similarities between both. Both use the bumper, all three bumper pieces, in basically the same positions and relative to the vehicle sides, as I mentioned earlier. And then both vehicles have a sort of slanted shape or orientation due to bigger back wheels and shorter front wheels. Both have pretty big engines in the back and radio communication antennas, and both have guns that sit above the driver. But that's about where the similarities end for these two. Where the Urban Avenger here is technically effective, cool, and sleek looking, its counterpart here, the alternate model, is just lacking in all the fronts. This thing is not very sleek, kind of short and stubby, has a very impractical gun design, very fragile and flimsy, and just overall, not very great. At least this has a roll cage to protect the driver if something is to happen. In this little thing here, you're just a sitting duck. You know, once they get past your gun, you know, just by simply moving out of in front of you, they basically got you, especially if they can outrun you. Now, because of how close the wheels are together, this thing has a pretty good turning radius, which has got to be helpful for it, and it's probably the only thing that could attempt to make this gun practical. And that paired with its big engine size in comparison to its relatively small frame might lead it to be just as fast, if not faster, than the base model. However, I would highly argue against that. This thing, to me at least, appears a much more lighter, sleeker aerodynamic frame. The engine is built in a much bigger configuration, and everything here is just far more lovely. Fun fact, the Urban Avenger seems to have been based on the U.S. military FAV, Fast Attack Vehicle, or formerly known as the Desert Patrol Vehicle. These were first worked on in the 1980s and then first saw combat in 1991 during the Persian Gulf War. But getting back on track, there is nothing that I can say that this vehicle does better than this vehicle here. Compared to all of the alternate models we have looked at thus far, I feel like this is the least special one we have been given. In fact, not only is it the least special, but I think the least innovative. Now, there is room to argue that the Firehammer's alternate wasn't particularly innovative either. However, I feel like the Firehammers made a distinctly unique looking vehicle with the parts given and still felt like it had some strategic military value, as well as enough of a differentiation from the original to be its own thing. And so to that, I'd say that this is about as much of a differentiation from the source material as the Firehammer's alternate was from it. However, this just, in my opinion, is a far worse use of pieces, and quite frankly, I see no value building or owning this as opposed to the Urban Avenger itself. But with my thoughts given, Aid, what do you think?
I think that the alternate model is worse only for the fact that if the wheels are in, because if they were out, it would be way more effective at riding, but it seems like it would be slower and like would take bumps worse and wouldn't be able to go that fast compared to the original.
Well, with all that said, I will have to give this a D on the F2S scale. It basically just being an uglier vehicle to the original that serves a similar purpose, that does it presumably worse, and honestly, although I'm sure it does have some tactical value, I really don't see it here, and I think it would be a lot harder for the Dino Attack team to effectively utilize this than any other vehicle or alternate model we have covered or have yet to cover. Thank you all so much for watching. be on the lookout for the step-by-step build of this. Thank you again, Shlevkahav, for your help, and please have yourself a good night.